In today's video, we are going to talk about visa status ready after 221g, what it means, and next steps. If you are new to this channel, my name is Liman, and I make videos for a family-based immigration to simplify the immigration process and give you a confidence to go through your immigration journey by yourself. First of all, I am not an immigration attorney. I'm here to help you based on the information you have from embassy, U.S. embassies or consulate around the world, websites, and my personal experience. If you find this video very helpful, please subscribe, share, hit notification bell, and give us a big like so YouTube can share the video with more people. So if you're ready, let's get started. First, let's talk about refused status. What does it mean? Refused means that the consular officer can't make a decision based on the information she has or she has. So what is 221g mean? 221g is a temporary refusal visa. A visa refusal under 221g, it means the consular officer determined that the applicant was not eligible for a visa after completing and executing the visa application and any required interview. When a consular officer refuses a case under 221g, she or he will convey to the applicant whether the applicant is required to provide any further documentation or information, or whether the case required additional administrative processing. These 221g forms come in different colors, indicating different purposes. First, you have to understand what does mean 221g. So we have four forms of 221g. We have blue, we have pink, we have yellow, and we have white. And each one has a different meaning. First, let's talk about the pink one. What is 221g pink form? A pink form is issued when the consular officer is suspicious of the information on the petition. It may have to be related to the work qualification or purpose of visit. In this situation, your case required additional administrative processing. So what is 221g blue form? 221g blue form implies that the consular officer needs an additional supporting document to take a decision on a visa application. 221g yellow form is issued when the consular officer needs more time to review your documentation provided by the applicant. White one is a white 221g form. Consular officer will issue a white form to applicant when it falls under a complex category under 221g. This is usually because you did not provide enough or required evidence during your visa interview. Therefore, your case will require additional processing by USCIS based on documentation and information that USCIS receives. So I will share my experience on this one right here because my spouse got 221g on her interview. I will add the experience at the end of this video. So what is the next step after receiving 221g? When you receive 221g, the consular officer will ask you to submit some information or documentation, and you need to submit that information or documentation as soon as possible because you don't want to wait. The more you wait, the more your case is gonna take time to process. So my advice is to submit documentation as soon as possible. Submit documentation that they request in the format they request. If you are, for example, in countries that require translation, you must translate that documentation with a competent translator or approved translator. After you submit documentation or information requested, check status daily for update. Now let's talk about 221g processing wait time. The processing wait time will depend on country where the applicant had the interview, visa type, administrative processing issue, and additional documentation. You know, some documentation you can find them right away in one day, but there is some documentation they take months. So it will depend on the type of additional documentation they requested. Just I will give an example. One of my my client or you know my uh, one of my follower, he has to submit the police certificate because he was living in two different countries. So, and it would be hard for him to go back to other country to get the police certificate from that country. So it takes time. So, as I said, it will depend on additional documentation that they requested. Now, once you submit the required documentation or information that the consular officer requested, the consular officer will work on them. And if he or she sees everything is good, the status will change to ready. Always, status ready means it's a good sign. Means they accepted the documentation that you submitted. Because just they see them, if just they see them, they see that's what they need. They will change the status to ready. And means is not ready for interview, is ready to work on documentation that you submitted to them. Now they're going to go through the documentation step by step, very carefully. And if they see them, and if they see that documentation you submitted is good, it will conclude that the applicant now is qualified for the visa, and the status will issue, change to issue from refused again. So you are not going to have an interview. If the status changed already, you are not going to have interview. So ready means that the documentation you submitted is good and the consular officer will work on your case. And, and if the consular officer says everything is fine, then it will change the status from ready to issued. So the status that you can see right here will now change to issued. Congratulations, you have your visa now, and your visa packet will be delivered to your designated address by the courier services within 7 to 10 working business days. Usually, they will get your passport. They will send your passport to designated address that you submitted to them for the courier services that you submitted to them. Now, as I mentioned, let's share my experience right here. My spouse has an interview and without medical exam because we could not schedule a medical exam. The medical exam facility was full. We could not schedule a medical exam, but we have an interview before the medical exam. So my spouse went to the interview. She had an interview with the consular officer. She did well with no problems. But at the end of her interview, consular officer give her this 221g. This one is from my spouse. It's from Consulate General of Casablanca. So as you can see right here, they mark for her medical exam. So my spouse, after the interview, I think we scheduled a week after the interview, we scheduled a medical exam. She went to the medical exam. She did her medical exam, and the medical exam was sent to consulate again within a couple of days. They give us a call and they told us, congratulations, your spouse have a visa, and just go to your courier services to pick up your passport. So as I mentioned, status really is a good sign because in my case it was refused, but as soon as they received the medical exam, the status would change to ready. After that, after ready, it was changed to issued. As I mentioned, that after the status was changed to issued, they give us a call to pick up passport. So this is the end of this video. I hope you like it. If you do, please subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Thank you, and see you next video.